It's just Jersey, man. We're a different breed. Place. Who doesn't want to win in Jersey?
What's up, everybody? John Forster here, breakdown from the barn. We're on episode 32. I got with me, as always, the greatest mind in wrestling, Eric Winup. We got two top guests here today. We got Reece Humphrey, three-time world team member, head coach of the New Jersey RTC, as well as CJ Brucki, coach of the College of New Jersey, former Chippewa. How you guys doing today?
What's up, man? Feeling good.
Fantastic, man. Glad to be on.
So a lot going on with you two guys.
Talking
beforehand. What's keeping you guys busy?
Everything. We have a million things going on right now. We're doing the winter tour for our adult wrestling. We've been getting in the studio a lot, making a ton of music. I got the NJRTC keeping me busy, doing 2-a-days every day. I got a family that's always busy. My son's getting into wrestling. My daughter, we were talking about it the other day. She's probably going to start wrestling here soon. She's in gymnastics. They got school. There's just so many things going on. I leave today for the World Cup to go watch Coach Nate Jackson compete. He's the number 192 in the country. So looking forward to Team USA dominating the world and getting that World Cup title. But yeah, man, a lot.
I warn you, man. My daughter's in the gymnastics. She's really serious into it, and we tried to get her scrapping a couple of years ago. So once they go down that path, man, it takes up a lot of time. So get her in early, man, before you lose her.
Oh yeah. And CJ's along for all of it, man. He basically lives in my house.
Oh yeah, Uncle CJ coming in hot. We were actually talking about Reece getting her back involved in the sport. I think she wants to. She just needs that maybe a little push, maybe not. Maybe she's going to find it in the end. But yeah, in terms of staying busy, man, what aren't we doing? We're adding to the list every day with ideas. You talk about adult wrestling, you talk about our actual jobs, our 9-to-5s per se, and then you throw in the music, you throw in a podcast we want to start doing. We're talking about training to fight the other day. It's like every other second we're trying to think of what else can we challenge ourselves in. So it's a pretty exciting time right now. We're trying to stay as busy as possible, and I'm also coaching at TCNJ, so those guys are in the midst of their season. We're getting into wrestling, man. It's happening, turning a corner.
Nice. Now I love it. I love all the excitement you guys are bringing to New Jersey. Both Midwest guys, right? Coming from the Midwest and New Jersey. Why don't you tell us what's better, Midwest or New Jersey? What do you liking better?
Jersey's home. Hey, don't talk down on the southwest suburbs of Chicago, though.
You can't make me talk bad about the Midwest, man. Those are the roots, and they sculpted me. But I mean, I needed both homes at different points in my life. I know when I stepped out to Jersey, I was being welcomed with open arms. It was such an easy transition, and now Jersey holds a really special place. I mean, I can't really compare it to anywhere else in the world. The pride that's around here is insane. And being a part of that is, it makes sense to me. Just because they're bringing so much passion. You guys bring so much passion. And I think it's awesome to be able to jump into it and be accepted by it too. And have it resonate so easily. So Jersey's next level. I'm telling you that right now.
It grips you, man. It pulls you in. My wife is from Central PA, and I couldn't imagine her. She's like, I got out at 18. I'm never going back. I'm staying here. My mom's from Indiana. She moved back out there, and she moved back out here. She's like, this is my home now. It's not Indiana. So I hear you guys.
Nice.
Yeah, my mom would like to hear that.
Well, you guys are Jersey guys, man. You got that Jersey swagger, so it's good. You guys fit right in here. We love it. We love having you. So let's talk about this adult wrestling. I've been to a couple of them. Those things are great, man. Talk about the concept, what you guys are doing, what you're bringing with that.
Yeah, man. So we started this. So CJ was my former athlete, and then he got into his 9-to-5, and he's doing awesome at that. And he's being really successful moving into the next chapter of his life, but he was missing wrestling. And I'm thinking like, dang, man, there's got to be a ton of people just like that. CJ competed at the highest level, but a lot of people, there's not very many avenues after high school. If you're the 1%, you maybe get to wrestle at the college level. So there's fewer of them, but still after college, what do you do then? If you're not going to wrestle, try and make the Olympic team, what are you going to do? How can you stay involved in the sport? very, very few opportunities. And so we thought that there is basically a gold mine here. And besides a gold mine, it's a gold mine in the fact that we can provide this avenue for our community and give back to wrestling a lot longer than just the high school level. And so it's an exciting thing that we're doing here. It's really fun. We get these old guys and girls doing cartwheels and forward rolls, and we get to teach wrestling, and they get to share that information and that knowledge that we have with their sons and daughters, with their club teams, with their actual teams, because it's a lot of guys who are still involved in the sport. And so they get to share that knowledge, and it's just an awesome avenue to continue wrestling. And we're having a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome.
That I think is the biggest thing right there that Reece touched on. Aside from the fact that participation and the level of wrestling as a hobby is not even a thing. We're trying to add, we're changing the stigma of the sport in terms of how you think about wrestling. People that maybe have always watched wrestling, are intrigued by wrestling, but they're a little bit too scared to get involved just because, you think about going in there and fighting somebody. It's not as much fun to dip your toe into a sport like that, even though they've always been curious. So, and also even people that have been involved in the sport and are scarred to this day because of how much they had to cut weight, how much running they had to do on the side, how much they grueled practice. And for years it was, that's why you hear so many people getting burnt out in the sport. So we want to be able to encourage participation at a fun pace and change this stigma about wrestling is that you can only be involved when you're in high school and compete really hard when you're doing it. In reality, all you have to do is strap the shoes up and roll around. So that's what we're trying to change as well. And I think that we're making big steps towards it. And there's been a lot of people that have been excited to be a part of it. So
yeah. So for me, it's like I know I would never get on the treadmill and run for 90 minutes. It's just never, ever going to happen. I would hate that. It'd be miserable. So I'm lucky enough to be able to coach at a high level and be able to get that roll in. And so we call it a roll because jiu-jitsu does that. They roll, it's technique, it's fun. Wrestling can be exactly that. And that's what it's missing at this level, because I've seen a lot of these adult programs come up and they said the biggest problem is everybody gets hurt. And we see that when we bring them in. So we have to constantly talk about tone it down, drop the ego. I got to step in every once in a while if somebody's going too hard, or CJ's got to put his hands on them just for a second. It's like, hey, chill out. And so if we can keep that's the hardest part. Keep everybody chilling
so
out.
hard.
You lace the shoes up. You haven't worn them in 15 years. You think you're in your glory days. You think you're 18 and you go 0 to 100. And that's the only thing. The only problem with it is we just got to tone that down. And so we've learned that. We've done this for about a year now, and it's only positive. It's been so fun, and I think it's got a big future nationwide. We got some big plans. We got a video series coming out December 13th that's going to be able to teach other coaches how to run our class. So as soon as that goes out, we can start promoting that, and then anybody can open an adult wrestling class nationwide.
Nice. Well, I love it. I mean, I love it. We brought down, a bunch of former Rutgers guys, some Brighter guys. My man Tom Rubino is in his 60s. He comes in and laces them up and gets it. So it's been a lot of fun. I know Matty, Intramural Junkie. He's my buddy. He goes around to all of them, so they've been awesome, man. We can't say enough good things about that. If you're in the area and it's coming, follow the Instagram, Veterans Wrestling.
Veteran Wrestling NJ.
Follow that. When it comes around your town, definitely go in there and get a workout in. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. And I think what you guys touched on is critical, because a lot of people who leave the sport, I mean, you've got the 40-year-old baseball leagues and the softball leagues, okay? Guys who played since kids are able to stay in it and not be at such a high pace. In wrestling, if you're not coaching, like I'm lucky enough to where I had a son who got into wrestling. I was able to stay into it. I'm coaching. I'm rolling with some of the heavyweights. And you're right. The first time I did that, I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw this kid around. After about 60 seconds, man, I'm like, what happened, man? Okay, I used to be able to swim a 500, and I can't go 60 seconds with a 16-year-old. But to your point, it's a way to get guys who maybe don't get into coaching, or don't necessarily, whose sons and daughters don't get into the sport, to get them back in, but at a level to where they don't feel like they're intimidated, or they don't have to go all out. So I think from that aspect, it's another avenue for parents who maybe aren't necessarily coaching.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge.
And it's
but
that
also,
community.
Yeah. But what you touched on, that humility is so huge, because
Hard.
we forget how hard things are for when our son or daughter is out there competing. And we use the example, just get up. You hear all these parents say, just get up. And you forget how hard it is to get up if you don't know what you're doing. They are trying out there. They do want to get up. They do want to win. And so we give them that perspective again. And you can actually bring some real knowledge to the table when you're really trying to help your son or your daughter when they're competing.
Yeah, that's the biggest line from parents in the stands. That's their advice. Get out. I'm like,
Just
thanks.
get up. You get up.
Gotta get out. Gotta get out. I'm like, that's good. So we're talking about what wrestling has done in terms of you guys trying to get the adults back out there. But in general, I think you guys touched on this because there's so much both of you guys are doing. Reece, and we'll get into the whole social media aspect. You're you're just a very intense person, which I think is fantastic. But in general, what other ways has wrestling kind of impact both of your lives and shaped you of who you are? So I know John and I talk about what it's done for us and why we are the people we are. And a lot of it goes back to our wrestling days since youth and high school and college.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
You go ahead. All right. I got into the sport late, man. I wasn't bred a wrestler. You see a lot of these people walking around in the sport, they're wrestling before they can even, while they're crawling.
Right.
And that's something that was new to me. I'm a first generation wrestler. I have an uncle in my family that actually coached at Eastern Illinois while they had a program. But other than that, I had no influence in my immediate family to wrestle. And I got into it in high school, and it smacked me like a ton of bricks, man. I realized real quick, this is something that's going to challenge me more than anything I've been involved in up to this point. And it was hard because I loved football. I wanted to play football in college. And then I got an opportunity to take wrestling to the highest level in college, and I decided I'm going to go for it. And so, I don't know, I kind of followed that path. I didn't really know how far it was going to take me, but I just worked hard enough at it that, it continued to surprise me where it was going to take me. I didn't think I was going to wrestle after college, but I used, it was kind of like a vehicle for me. I kind of rode this ride as far as I could take it. And, it's kind of just, it goes back to everything that my father kind of instilled in me. It's just good things happen to good people who work hard. And I continue to do that in this sport. And it took me to TCNJ, where I got my education. It took me to a position where I was competing at the highest level, going to Cuba for all these matches, coaching under Reece. I never thought I would be pursuing this as long as I did, especially getting into it so late as I did. And it's become such a pinnacle part of my life. I think it's taught me that you never know when you're going to, at what point in your life you're going to pick something up and take it as far as you ever imagined, right? Different things enter your life at different times, and they're meant to. So learn what you can from them and, take it as far as you can. You'd be surprised how far it'll take you. I mean, I ended up in Jersey. What the hell happened?
Yeah, because of wrestling. That's crazy.
Surprising. I didn't know you just started in high school. You didn't start wrestling until high school. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive,
Yeah.
man.
I was late to the game.
To the next, take it as far as you took it. You had this great college career, big win over Mark Hall. We know that, and started in high school and then competing internationally. That's amazing, man. How about you, Reece?
Yeah. So wrestling, my dad coached at the Olympic level. He was the head coach for USA in '88 and for Canada in '84. So, but growing up, he was in sales when I was growing up. So it was like, I didn't really realize it. And it was like the greatest magic trick he ever did. He convinced me that he wasn't this phenomenal wrestler. He's a world silver medalist, head coach of the Olympic team. And when I told him I was coming out for wrestling in 6th grade, which is decently late for guys who make it as far as I did, but I remember his eyes lighting up like, well, you're going to wrestle. And so, somehow he brainwashed me in there without me knowing. So that was like the greatest gift he gave to me. But yeah, in one way, shape, or form, almost everything in my life is somehow been shaped by wrestling. It's like any kind of situation I get into, I always go back to the hardest thing I've done, the thing that I've had a lot of success with, and it's wrestling. The work ethic, the determination, the grit, the desire, all those things that you can't take shortcuts to get to the goal in wrestling. And wrestling will expose you, it'll humiliate you, and it'll teach you the gratitude and gratification and all that. So yes, one way, shape, or form, wrestling's taught me damn near everything.
It's interesting that both of you mentioned when you got into the sport, because I think of a guy from my hometown, Darren Caldwell. A lot of people don't realize he didn't come out wrestling until sixth grade. He's a football player. That's when he started going to Edge. We talked to Dan Hill, who's over at Yale Street, and he's another one that started wrestling until middle school. Do you guys think, not to take it off task, but you raise an interesting point, especially you, CJ, coming to high school, the way youth wrestling is really exploding at that lower level. You got guys who by the time they're in, if you're not in it till sixth grade, it's almost like you're out of it. Okay. Do you think that's going to continue, or do you think it's harder to get in the sport? You guys are at RTC, so you see the young wrestlers. Do you think it's making it harder to get into it at a later age?
No. I think it's always accessible. I think, it's just like anything. Like if there's more interest around it, if middle school wrestling is blowing up, there's going to be kids that are going to be, kind of pushing it off because they're a little bit more scared about wrestling, or they don't want to get for me, I didn't want to get tied up in a pretzel. I was good on it. I wanted to play basketball, but the more that it's in your face and the more popular it is, eventually they're going to stop saying no, and they're going to try it out, and you're going to take off with it. And for me, I don't think that starting late was a detriment to me. I think it was honestly the best thing that could have happened to me in the sport, because by the time I started wrestling and by the time I was a senior, I was still learning. I was still hungry. I was good enough to get an opportunity. So that was great. But I had a great high school program and I wasn't burnt out. At no point in the sport have I been like, man, I'm good. Just because I had so much more to give and so much more to learn. Granted, I was around some of the best in the sport from the beginning. So I was very lucky for that. Not everybody has that luxury, but I think that it's going to be easier for kids to say yes if it's more adopted into the middle school programs. If it's it's just growing as a sport as a whole, especially with what the girls are doing and bringing such a wave that they are. It's going to be a lot harder to say no and a lot easier to say yes for some of these kids growing up. And I think that's a great thing for the sport.
Awesome. So we got to talk about, we know we're the number one podcast for Princeton wrestling. How's these Tigers looking this year, Reece?
Pretty good. So the results aren't exactly where we want them to be, but we're in this Big Ten grind right now, which it's exactly what they needed. We're getting beat up a little bit in the hand fight, and in this last match against Michigan State, we responded and we started moving them backwards. And it's something that we preach, but you don't really feel it until you feel it, if that makes sense. So it's like you got to get beat up a little bit to make those gains, and that's what we needed. So giving up, we're trying to figure out 25 right now. Glory's been handling some stuff and is a little banged up, but so we gave up a forfeit in both those duels, and it was the difference, really. And then not having Glory in there is just it's a little bit deflating, giving up a forfeit when you got your returning national finalist. So he's figuring out how he's going to handle his little bumps and bruises, but he's feeling good now. So that's going to be a game changer for us leading into.
I will say though, I don't know if you had eyes on Glory or if your ears worked at all, but Glory didn't wrestle, but damn, was he in those matches. I mean, it was still flipping chairs. He was still screaming his head off. I mean, he's going to be that vocal guy. He can't help himself, man. The kid is just so invested, and he brings a crazy passion. Everybody's got a little psycho in them in the sport, but Glory brings a whole
Jersey wrestlers, man.
That's Jersey.
Yeah,
right?
it's for real. I love it.
Nuts.
Can't you find some little computer science major walking around Princeton and show them a double, Reece, get them out there?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish it was that easy, right?
Nice. We know this weekend, Sunday, we know they're going to be bringing their A game, big trophy on the line. What are your thoughts on that matchup with Rutgers?
Yeah, like I said, this is exactly where we need to be. We learned some lessons the hard way, and the coaches are a little worried about this and that, but I'm not. I talked to Nate. I said, this team's going to be great. It's going to be really great. They're figuring out a couple things and a couple bumps and bruises. And right now is a tough part of the season, just mentally for a lot of people. There's no light at the end of the tunnel quite yet. So it seems like there's a lot of weigh-ins left, and there's a lot of this and that and bumps and bruises. Seems like they're never going to heal, but this is, I think we're getting ready to peak right for Rutgers right at the right time. And Rutgers looked really good this past weekend. I was excited for them. So I'm getting more and more excited for this duel, because we looked really good in that Michigan State match, and just like a couple weird calls, a couple out of bounds right at the wrong time. So it's making us extra hungry. Not like we need any extra motivation for Rutgers, but it was just so close, but it didn't quite satisfy. We didn't come out with the dual win. So it's like it's a good place to be. You don't want to be there because you don't want to take those losses, but I feel really good about where we are right now, and I'm really excited for this duel. It's a great duel, great matchups throughout the whole entire duel. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Princeton over Rutgers. I'm gonna go 21-17.
21-17. What about you, CJ? What are you picking?
Man. So I gotta follow that up with the fact that when we first came out here, Princeton and Rutgers were one team at the NJRTC, right? They had their falling out, but in that time, I did a lot of work with Rutgers. I did a lot of work in that room back in College Ave, the sweatshop before they had the bright and shiny room now. I was working with Pagano at 7 a.m. Like I love Rutgers, and Goody was a guy. He'd ask me all the time to come into practice and be with these guys. So, I'm as invested in Rutgers as I am Princeton, although we are around Princeton a lot more. I got a lot of love for both programs, and they're both turning up at the right time. It's going to be an intense one. I got to go Rutgers. I'm going to go Rutgers. I don't know the score per se, but we're going to have to have some guys show up and compete. But I think Rutgers is ready. I think they're doing it.
Yeah, it's funny.
They look
talk
good
about
versus
the
Penn.
rivalry.
I really think when you talk about a team performance, top to bottom, I was very impressed with that Penn match. I picked Rutgers, but I was very nervous about that matchup because Penn just was solid 10 weights, but they showed up in 10 weights and wrestled well. So we'll see what happens. Any individual matches in that lineup that you're looking forward to?
I mean, Dean and Glory. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? That's the way they left that one at the Princeton Open was unbelievable. I know Dean's been training, looking forward. I know Glory's got, he's had some time to figure his weight out now. So that is going to be a scrap for sure. You got Janzer and Luke Stout up top. That's going to be some good stuff. Janzer's at 97, right?
Yeah, he's at 97.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to right there. Paz is out, so we're not going to get that 84-pound matchup that we're looking for, right?
Don't sleep on Saldano, though.
Oh, that's true. This is true.
I'm demonstrating more. You got to watch the show.
Reece, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for all of them, all the way up and down the lineup. And I was impressed with Rutgers versus Penn. They did look really solid throughout the whole thing, but Penn, I think, was a little bit overhyped. I'm a fan of what they do over there. I love Jordan Burroughs and the whole freestyle program with Slay and Joey McKenna and Dave McFadden. All those dudes are some of my favorite people in wrestling, and they're doing a great job over there. But they were favored in how many weights versus Iowa, and that didn't go very well. And then the same thing, they're favored in a bunch of weights versus Rutgers, and either Rutgers showed up or Penn's just not as good as everybody thinks. And so I think we're all kind of right at the same. And we're going to find out, though. It's going to be really cool. Every single match is going to be very, very important. Bonus points are going to be very important. There's going to be some blood. There's going to be some. Goody
and Joe Dubuque are going to have their annual face-off at the table.
And I love that, man. And just like CJ said, the NJRTC was Princeton and Rutgers, so I got a ton of love for those guys, but I got a ton of love for this rivalry. And I mean, I used to just sit right in the middle and hide out in the back. Now I'm on the Princeton side, and so we're gonna find out. Though I'm really excited for every single match. It's gonna be awesome.
I was gonna say, Reece, you forget the times where you and Goody were sitting there coaching in the corner together at some of these events. So it's got to be a little.
I don't forget it. I don't forget it, man. Nothing but love for those guys. We had a lot of really good moments. But yeah, man, it's been
get it on, right?
It's
funny. We talked about this rivalry because there's a lot of quote unquote rivalries that are almost forced. They don't happen organically. They don't happen naturally. And you talk about a lot of rivalries, your Penn State, your Ohio States, things of this nature. And East Coast wrestling in general, I think, is back on the rise. You talk about UPenn and what they're building, what you guys are building at the NJRTC. But to see the way this Princeton-Rutgers rivalry has come together, and we're going to touch on a couple of the historic matches. I think John's going to cover it a little bit. But I think the fact that it's growing so exponentially, this rivalry, I think it's great for Jersey wrestling. I think it's great for the area. Wrestling, and I'm going to get into kind of ask you guys about social media in terms of growing the sport in general. And I think growing sport in the Northeast outside of your powerhouses is so critical because there's there's so much damn good wrestling out here. It can't be everyone's dream to go wrestle for Penn State. You got to keep it local. And I think this Princeton Rutgers rivalry is making that happen. But switching kind of gears a little bit, Reece, and you as well, CJ. Obviously, you guys have very kind of prominent social media presences. And I think, John and I have talked in the past that wrestling at some times, and I don't mean it from a political standpoint, but just from a personal standpoint, has been too conservative at times. When people think of wrestling, people who aren't involved in wrestling, they think of, your typical, Dan Gable type personality, hard-nosed, Midwestern, keeps to themselves. Where you guys and a lot of the guys we deal with, and what John and I are trying to do is trying to open things up again, show the personalities. So Reece and CJ, maybe Reece, you touch a little bit. Talk to me about, how your social media presence, how do you think it grows wrestling, kind of how it builds out your personality?
Yeah. So we would never be anywhere without the people that gave back to us. And so I would like to give back to as many people as possible. I do so many camps. I do the adult wrestling, a lot of things I do for free, a lot of things I do very cheap. But I give to the college team. That's not my job. I love to be with those guys. I want to help. But my job is the main focus is the senior guys. So I always want to give back as much as possible. And to do it on the social media, I can give back to close to 100,000 people, and so we're showing technique that some people would like to hide. We're showing how fun the sport can be, and we're showing a different side of it. Like, we're changing the stigma. We focus on changing it in the adult wrestling classes. We say be an exaggerated version of yourself, and so we like to be fun and energetic. So in those classes, we're extra fun, we're extra energetic. Sometimes it's annoying how fun we are in those classes. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we think that it does make a difference. So it's like immediate return on our investment. So it's really easy to continue to keep going. I wish we would post more, and I wish we would capture more of these fun moments. But the ones that we do, I got no problem posting them. There'll be hate. There'll be people making fun of you. But I know for a fact it's helping the sport, and it's helping my brand, the NJRTC. Everything that goes along with it. So I'm ready to deal with the hate, and I'm ready to help grow the sport in any way I can.
CJ, your
yeah,
thoughts?
I think Reece touched on it. I think it's important to step outside of the box. That you're, for me, I was a wrestler, going to school, a student athlete for the longest time. So I was in this. I felt like a lazy river, and even post grad, even post grad going to TCNJ and being a graduate assistant, I was still going to school. I was still coaching. I was still around the sport. And I kind of got sick and tired of being within this lane for the longest time. And I wanted to step outside of that lane and kind of see what else was out there, So this adult wrestling is an outlet for us for real expression. We want to be goofy, but for the longest time we've had to suppress those things. We want to pursue music, but for the longest time we've had to suppress those things. So this is real expression, and that's what you're going to get the most positive feedback from. If you're trying to be fake, you're going to get spot out in a second. So this is all organic energy that we're pouring out there, and if people resonate with it, great. If people don't, then that's fine. You can go and find, you can be an audience somewhere else. But the fact is we're doing, it's not about knowing what to do anymore at this point in your life. It's about doing what you know. And for right now, I know this is the most fun I've ever had in my life. So I'm going to continue to go down this avenue as far as I can push it, and push the boundaries, because you're right. For the longest time, the sport has had that conventional, one-sided workhorse that answers the questions to every interview with the scripted response. When in reality, the sport needs a little bit more of a radical personality to grow this thing, and for people to tune in on what's going on in this sport and how it can shape an individual and change lives. So if we can contribute to that at all and widen that spotlight that's around the sport right now, that's my biggest goal. That's the impact I want to leave. It's not the big matches that I had when I was involved in the sport. It's what I can do after the fact that brings a little bit more light to it,
Yeah,
So
you're right.
it's huge.
They say adapt or die, man. And kids today, I mean, even we talk about my son, I'm sad to say he's a big NBA fan as a wrestling family, but it's that presence. These guys are larger life characters, and these kids get attracted to that. And I think if we don't step in that realm, we're gonna lose kids. It's the fact, okay? It doesn't mean just because you've got personality doesn't mean you can't be a hard worker. It doesn't mean you can't grind. You're talking about
Exactly.
going nuts. They're not mutually exclusive. So I think that's a critical point.
Yep. And so if you do want to grow your brand, to anybody listening out there, just do what you think is cool. If you think something's cool, put a lot of time into it and tell us about it. I want to see who these kids are. I don't want to see the one post about your state title and have the Bible verse attached to it. Just the things that will get likes. It's like if the good looking girl, always post a bikini pic because that'll get so many likes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be who you are. Show us who you are in all facets of life. Don't just do the thing that's going to get you the most likes the one time. Post consistently. Post who you are. Be funny if you're funny. Be a nerd if you're a nerd. But if you think something's cool, put some time into it and tell us about it.
Yeah, Reece, please no bikini pics, yo. Please.
Hey. Man, just let me be who I am.
No, so being who you are, obviously, Reece, you show talking about the social media, you do a lot of fun stuff, your flips. I saw some of the stuff, kind of acrobatic stuff you like to do. I know for me growing up as a kid, I was a little bit of a risk taker. I did BMX biking. John and I joke around, old roommates of ours. I used to jump off 80-foot cliffs out in PA. So I'm really attracted to that stuff. I've had to tone it down in my later life, but outside of wrestling, kind of riskiest stuff you've done, riskiest sport, talk about that a little bit.
Man, I've done handstands off of mountains where it was a bad idea. So I'm good at handstands, but you do some handstands on some shaky rocks when I'm looking down hundreds of feet. Yeah, a little bit too risky there. So going on hikes, but whenever I see something up high, I always want to do a handstand on it. I don't want to take the normal pick. That is my normal pick. And so, yeah, probably a little too risky doing that sometimes. Done some flips off of, I did this like the other day, a couple months ago, off maybe 35 feet. I did a backflip just because my son is amazing at all that stuff and he was too scared to send it. So I had to show him how it's done. Sometimes you do just got to send stuff, and I over rotated. So that was not the best idea, but it got him to send it. And he did it perfect. So it's my job to show him the ropes, and sometimes it's being a little bit stupid. So because you got to push the bar all the time and be safe. But yeah, man, I'm always trying to push the bar, and I'm trying to show him that he can challenge himself, and my daughter that she should challenge herself. And once I show them that, it's like almost scary. So I'm like kind of waiting on them both to get hurt before they slow down. But right now they've been doing it in a controlled environment, and they're pushing the bar and they're making gains at a very high rate.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. And tell us, you're doing that cool stuff. I know you got the music coming out. Tell us about the music stuff you're doing.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah. So, we kind of dabbled with this at the start of the year. It's been a crazy year just because, we didn't really know what we were doing with it at first. And so we went a million different avenues. Our genre is no genre. We're talking country, R&B, rock, rap. You can call us whatever, but it all falls under the umbrella of no genre. Young Bruck, Highlight Humphrey. We've gotten to work with some crazy individuals that have been in the business for such a long time that we're learning so much at a pretty fast rate. We're going to keep putting music out. We've got our one album out that came out within, I think, 6 months of us making music. I mean, this is crazy turnover for what we're doing. It's a high pace. We really only know one speed. So it's going to continue to come at you. And it'll, if it's good, great. If it's bad, fine. We're going to continue to have fun in the process. That's what's kind of been the most surprising about it is, how enjoyable it is to have that creative outlet and to continue to push yourself in a new avenue. It's a new challenge, right? We're just trying to we're trying to accomplish the side missions at this point. So it's been one hell of an adventure, and I'm getting more and more involved as we go, man. I'm diving into it. It's like it started with a toe, and now I did a cannonball into the pool. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're really just having a ton of fun with it, and just enjoying the journey. And so my favorite part of life is the chase, and once I got done chasing Olympic gold, I realized that dream was gone. I started wanting to chase other things. And I thought I was done achieving things at that point. And I got Coach of the Year, and then I won the Veteran Worlds. And I've done a lot of things after that fact. So there's no reason you should ever stop chasing. So we're chasing adult wrestling now. We're chasing music. And that feeling when we're in the studio, man, when we're in there, you can't tell me I'm not a rock star. You can't tell me. So that feeling is just so good. And with that wrestler attitude and mindset, I promise we're going to figure it out. I promise you, we're going to figure it out.
It's going to happen.
We keep getting better and better. And in the beginning, everybody making fun of us. But I told you earlier, I don't give a damn. I don't care if you like it or not, because somebody is going to like it. And
you see this hair, yo, I'm a rock star. Quit playing with him.
Idiot. Oh my
God. You gotta have that mindset, right? Be brave enough to suck at something new. That's how you make champions, right? So we went into the Tigers. Now we need to talk some Lions. I mean, TCNJ, Galani Vigilantes ranked 9th in the country. So why don't you tell us about, what's going on down there in Ewing, New Jersey, CJ?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, it's been one hell of a ride since I stepped into that room. You see 1,000 names on the wall. The tradition in that place is it's oozing, So I am bleeding, blue and gold since the second I stepped on that campus. It's been a wild ride. Joe Galani's been putting them boys to work. He's been getting them into shape. Even some of the coaches that I was working with at first, Lenny and Derek Dudo, shout out those guys. We have an incredible staff right now. First and foremost, we have May Bethea. We have Tim Ambacher, myself, these are alum that were from TCNJ as well. So Joey has number one, a very, he's crafted such a great staff to help mold these guys. So that's number one, shout out to that. But now we've got some great talent. Like you said, keeping Jersey within Jersey. They're all Jersey through and through. I think we have one PA guy that we're starting to bleed over across the state line, but that's to be expected if you're creating such a buzz around the state. We have great young talent. We have guys that have stepped into roles. I'll just go up the line. Rosenthal at 125. He's been doing an amazing job cutting down to 125. He beat number 6 guy in the country the first weekend of the year. And it was kind of up in the air whether he was going to go 25 at first. He's blown it out the water. So there's a huge improvement right there. We have a guy, Larry or Kyle Nace. He's his father was a big wrestling coach in the state. So obviously well-tuned athletes, and we're having a scrap at 33 right now. 41 Dom DeFrancesco Antonio. You guys know him. He's been a name in Jersey for a long time. He just knows how to throw guys in any position. It's crazy. The points that he's scoring is unreal. Mikey Conklin is an elite kid that's come through the trenches with me. He's an All-American as a true freshman last year. He's scoring points like crazy. He's got the mentality that he's gonna rip a head off after every match. It's ridiculous. 57 Matty Sacco is coming back. He's battled some injuries. 65, we've got a few guys in the mix there, Nick and Matt Surge. 74, Reed Kallela. 84, we have Quinn Haddad. He's coming down. Mark my words, he's going to be a national champ. He's been cutting weight all summer. He's been bringing his weight down. He's getting his mind right. It's unreal. 97, we got a few guys in the mix. Joe Daddario has been stepping up, and heavyweight, we got Pete Wersinger. So look, all these guys know how to wrestle. All these guys know how to work hard. They're bought in. Joe has a very calculated plan. He's kind of like Ayers with the Excel spreadsheet. Sometimes he gets lost in the rabbit holes, but sometimes you got to know what works to get him there. And at this point, he's got it down to a system. So, it's all about putting the right person and the best self out there in March. And these guys are invested in the journey. So I'm just excited to get there and see what happens in the big matches.
Awesome.
Well, what makes this stuff work, I think, is leadership. And John and I had Coach on here talking about the program. You could feel the passion out of them and getting the guys in there. And I think it's from the top down. I think you guys have tremendous leadership from the coaching standpoint. And I think that bleeds into the program. I mean, you're a reflection of who of the leadership is, who the coaching staff is. And I think having you there and have Joe up there at top, I think you guys are going to continue to do great things as you move forward. So I think you're just tipping the iceberg. But I think it's all leadership and you guys have it.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. And he runs that program, and having guys like CJ and the rest of the staff in there is amazing. And TCNJ comes to the NJRTC all the time. All the time. Joey's got no ego. He wants to send us guys over all the time. Anybody that's taken a year off, we got them in the room still. So it's whenever we're having RTC practices. So it's a great relationship we have there too, and it's only up for TCNJ.
Yeah, speaking of the NJRTC and great leadership, Reece, you talked to us because I think you've done a phenomenal job since you were brought in there and what you guys are doing. And there's just so many good RTCs now that are popping up. I mean, you touched on UPenn, what they're doing with Drexel, obviously with Scarlet Knights Wrestling Club, even though they split from the NJRTC, trying to bringing Sebastian Rivera back. But why don't you just talk about where you guys are from the NJRTC and how that's growing and anything you'd want to point out?
Yeah, man, we're always trying to grow. So we've kind of been the bad news bears in the past. We had Downey and Graff, two guys that nobody really wanted, and then once they started winning, it seems like, oh, of course they were going to win, you know. So I think we helped them, we helped facilitate those their success there. But still, like they both kind of bounced out. Graff is retired now, and Downey's moving on to fighting. And so we have Nate Jackson, who's ranked number 1 at 92 kilos. We have Matt Kolazic, who just had a phenomenal NYAC event at the Bill Farrell. And then we have Shelton Mack, who I think is getting ready to make some big jumps, and he's going to be a force to reckon with at the U.S. Open, and we go to France next month. So yeah, we only have the 3 guys. It's a bummer that we had to split from Rutgers because that gave us the budget to have 6 guys, which made my job a lot easier. You know, so 6 isn't that many. It's still easy to focus on 6, but only 3. It's just so hard to fundraise for these guys. The price of wrestling went up, and so 3 guys full time is these guys are living pretty well for just training twice a day. Yeah, we have 3 guys. I would love to continue to get more guys, and we'll have Quincy and Glory next year, which will just be phenomenal to have.
Not bad. It's not a bad addition right there.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about Rutgers Princeton rivalry. I mean, something that bled through into the senior level. I mean, you got Kolazic and Ashnault. I mean, those guys just back and forth. I mean,
they pick back up again. That's the funny thing.
They just met again at the Bill Farrell. I mean, why don't you tell us a little bit about that rivalry?
Yeah, so I asked him yesterday. I said, "What's the record between you two?" And it's only 2-2, which I thought. So I thought it was at least 5 or 6 matches.
I think he's mistaken. I think there's more. They wrestled twice.
How can you be mistaken on that? It's so crazy. I think you're right.
Nah, they wrestled. I can tell you off the top of my head, they wrestled twice at Midlands. They wrestled at the
NCAA's. They wrestled in the duels. They probably wrestled
at the duels.
2-2.
Yeah, they lost. Kolazic beat Ashnault at the outside duel. They had that match.
What the heck?
There's 4 right there. Bill Farrell, I just think 5 off the top of my head, you know. And I think
the NCAA's. Yeah. So either way, it's back and forth. I think it's closer to 4-4 or something, or 3-4. Yeah. So who knows who's really ahead? But that's hilarious. That's Kolazic to a T. If I ask him, like, man, you did a great job with that high crotch on the edge of the mat, he won't remember. He'll have no idea. So he's just in it, and then it's gone. For as smart as he is, it's the way his brain works. But man, Kolazic's making some really big jumps, man. He's like a brother to me. We fight all the time. It's always an issue with me and him, but it brings us closer together too, because we're training partners too. So I still wrestle him a lot. So he can say no to me on this and that, but it's bringing us closer together. And that's why he's making some big jumps, because he is really passionate, and we are in this thing together, like deep in it together. Because I feel like I still want to be out there competing with these guys, but I can't. I'm a coach now, so I feel like I'm competing through him. And so there's a lot of pressure on him, and he handles it really well. And he's made some really big jumps. He beat Lugo, he beat Ashnault, he beat a couple really good foreigners after losing to the champ first round. It's pretty deflating when you get beat 11-3 and we don't know how good that guy is yet. You know, I knew he was somebody we had to watch, but damn, after that, I'm like, we suck. And then he battled back 5 matches against really good guys and looked really good, got tough when he had to. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited about Kolazic. I'm looking at those top tier guys at 65 kilos, and I don't see one of them that Colo can't wrestle with.
Let me tell you something. You don't keep grinding, because I would have never guessed that Seth Gross would have came back and made a world team. I thought about a year or 2 ago that, like, you know, he had a nice career, nice funky style, but you know, he's gonna grind it out till he's done, but he's probably at the down end. And next thing you know, he's out there, you know, almost competing for not just making the team. He was this close from pulling out a world medal. So I think you're right, man. You got to keep grinding. This sport does not end at 23. The top guys might be the top guys today, but you keep working. I mean, some people just happen to physically, grow later in life and they keep learning. I mean, these were all top guys back in the day. So I think you're spot on with that, man. You got to keep grinding.
Yeah, and if you're going to decide to do it, be all in. And
Yep.
just recently, he's been all in, but he turned it up a notch. He's eating perfectly. He's managing his weight 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, and it's been the difference. He's saying yes to everything instead of trying to fight me on different techniques. And so he's just trying to figure everything out. And man, yeah, he's very.
I think the line dancing went pretty far for him.
Line dancing.
I don't know if you guys know, Colo's my roommate. So one night I ended up going to this line dancing bar with him, and I swear, like, he's got his boots, he's got his hat, he's got his footwork, and Reece explains it the best. They'll be in the middle teaching technique, and every time it's like, all right, 1 2 1 2, he'll clap and he'll get up, and he'll do a little step, a little 1 2, man. It's all in the footwork.
Yeah.
He's turning it up a notch.
Got to get him in on those when you guys do your next video. You got to get him out there on a video when you do. Get him on.
Yeah.
He's in. And he plays the keys too. We got him in the background of a track already. So he's, like you said, Reece. He's stopping to say no. He's starting to say yes a lot more, and I think that is helping him. It's impacting his life. So
you got to come out of shadow, man. You got to come out of your shadow. You got to come out of your inner self, because there's some of these guys, you think they got no personality. Once it starts to come out, it comes out in full force. And speaking of personality and all the things you guys are doing, and we're talking about music, we're talking about NGRTCs, flips off mountains. Okay, you also did John and I talked about this. The commentary that you did, Reece, I think at the Worlds this year, I think was spot on. And some of the stuff has been boring, but back we had John Smith. We obviously, you were working with the GOAT himself, with Burroughs. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think the commentary is really picked up, and I think you did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, what a challenge. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I know wrestling, I can always talk about the wrestling, but that's my first time ever doing that. It's the Senior World Championships.
Not easy.
Everybody's name has a Q, an S, a Z in it. So that's freaking hard to do in itself, just pronounce the names. But yeah, man, I stepped into it. I was excited for the challenge, and it was a more of a mental challenge than I had expected. Because, you normally go to an event and you watch a couple matches, you sit on your phone for a little bit, you wait till your guy's up. I had to watch 4 hours, 4 days, 3 days in a row, where I'm literally saying, well, his right hand's doing this, his left hand's this, he's looking for this. I'm trying to predict what's going to happen next. So I'm very invested. It fried my brain. I got some respect for these media guys. And so I love it, though. It's the first time I ever got paid without having someone pull on my head. So more of that, please. More of that at any time of my life. And so really, I would love to do the NCAAs with DC and JB. Would just be a dream of mine on ESPN. I'll do the earlier rounds, and then they can do the finals, whatever. But I really want to get into commentary more. I was supposed to do the World Cup, but Nate's competing, so I'll be coaching instead. And so they want me to do the Worlds next year, but I'm really hoping Nate and my other guys are in there too. So any chance or opportunity I can get to continue to do that, I'm in.
Nice.
Awesome. We'll end it with this, guys. Great chat. And, what are you most looking forward to? We're coming up, going into the heart of the season. I mean, what are you most looking forward to in the NCAA season this year?
Yeah, Rutgers. Come on.
Yeah.
Rutgers, man, the conference tournament. We got a bunch of events coming up. I'm looking forward. We go to France. World Cup is right around the corner. I couldn't be more excited to see Nate prove that he's the best in the world and that he's going to win that world title this year. And this is the very first step for that. And then, the nationals always.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Great having you on. Jadwin Sunday. We'll see you there. We're going to be there. Great having everybody on. Make sure you guys follow the show. Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. We're on all the podcast channels. Keep a lookout for these guys, Veteran Wrestling NJ, and on Instagram. Get out there, get a sweat going, and we'll see you later, guys.